Hello, and welcome to the 203rd edition of Beer Issues. My name is Matt Bruckert, and I'm coming to you live here from Casa de Bruckert with another outstanding beers, an old favorite of mine from the Ommegang Brewing Company in New York, the Three Philosophers of Belgian style quad. So I'm very excited to have this beer. I haven't had it in a while. And I used to drink it all the time, and I don't know why I got away from it because I do indeed love the beer. But let's talk about the beer here as I open it, as my bottle opener cooperates with me here. There we go. Okay. So this beer clocks in at 93 out of 100, making it an outstanding beer, almost world class. But I would actually probably, and I'm going to make a decision by the end of the video, but I would actually consider it world class, okay? Just because I've had it before, I know how good it is. I used to think the rating was world class, but when I looked it up today on Beer Advocate, they came back at a 93. I thought it was 95 or above, but what do I know? But anyway, very excited about having this beer. Let me tell you about this beer because it is kind of unique. It's a Belgian style quad. It's ranked the number 16 Belgian quad in the world. Okay, which, obviously that tells you something. It's a very good beer. But it's a unique way that they make this beer. This beer, and I don't remember the exact percentages, but I'm going to go off from the best of my memory. I think the beer used to say it was 97% Belgian dark ale or Belgian strong ale and 3% cherry lambic, or they call it, when I read it today, it said cherry ale, which is the Lieferman's Krijk, which I think is the lambic. But anyway, if you see the color and appearance of the beer, you get a brown, typical color for a Belgian dark, the brownish, a little bit of red to it. And you can attribute some of that red to the cherry Krijk or the lambic that they do include in the beer. So it's unique because the one thing, sometimes Belgian quads can be, depending on, who makes the quad. I mean, some quads are so smooth and wonderful and delicious. And some of the Belgian quads, just 100% Belgian quad, will have a little bit of a bite to it, or, because of the high alcohol content. Now, this beer clocks in at 9.7% alcohol by volume, so it's definitely nothing to mess with. But sometimes when you have a strong Belgian quad, having that 3% of the cherry in there just makes it smooth and wonderful and adds a new complexity to the beer. Cherry is certainly not a flavor you would typically find in a Belgian quad. So let's go ahead. The head's dissipated just a little bit on here, but you did see the beautiful head that we got on that beer, and not pouring it heavy or anything. But let's go ahead and smell it. So what I get out of it right off the bat is I get the dark fruit, which would be typical for a Belgian quad, but there's a sourness to it, and that's got to be from the Krijk. But I smell that in the sourness kind of on the tail end. But the main smell is going to be like the dark fruits, maybe like a toffee or something like that. And maybe a light smell. It almost smells like there's like some molasses in there or something, but we've talked about this before. Those flavors aren't actually, the things that you smell in the beer come from the way that they produce the beer. It's not like they're putting molasses in there, and it's not like they're putting, this other items. This is a true Belgian quad, so that's why it has the aromas of the fruit, the toffee, the molasses. It's just the types of malts that they use when they're making the beer. These types of beers have a very low IBU or international bitter units because they're not hoppy beers at all. They're super malty beers, okay? And then they add that sweetness in just to smooth out the edges of the quad. So let's waste no time. Let's go ahead and drink this and see if this is just as delicious as I remember. Outstanding. Outstanding in many ways. Okay, so when I taste it, right off the bat, I get like a dark fruit, toffee, maybe caramel. Yeah, definitely. I just got that caramel taste. So you get that coffee caramel kind of, not coffee, toffee caramel kind of flavor in there. And it really finished, I got a note of it, of the real strong taste of the caramel in there, but which is kind of unique. But I also do like how that cherry lambic kind of smooths out the edges at the end and kind of finishes it with like a crisp but sweet, but not like overly sweet like you would think for your typical lambics are going to be really sweet, fruited lambics that is. But this comes through like a crisp sweetness at the end. But like I said, it's not overly sweet. It's just a nice complement to the overall flavor. So right up front, you get the taste of the wonderfully done Belgian quad, and then like at the end, it kind of gives you a crispness. And you don't get that in all Belgian quads. Some of them will end very malty. This one just ends a little bit crisp, with you would get like with hops or something like that. But it's not in no way hoppy, but it's real crisp at the end, like a crisp finish. And there's definitely some spices in there, and I would definitely guess one of them to be clove. But there's some other spices that they do have in that beer, and I can't put my my finger on it. It might be like a coriander, clove, maybe even a little bit, a slight bit of cinnamon in there. In the taste. So a very unique, complex beer. And this is made in New York. This isn't even a Belgian beer, but I do believe in my research that if I remember right, Ommegang Brewery, I think it was Ommegang, somehow intertwined with Duvel. I believe. I might be talking off cuff, and if I'm wrong, I do apologize in advance. But I believe that they have some kind of partnership, or the original strands for their yeast possibly came from Duvel, and Duvel has some kind of stake in the brewery. I believe. Again, if I'm talking incorrect, I'm going to research after. I probably shouldn't say anything until I did the research, but I'm pretty confident that there is some kind of stake with a Belgian beer company. I think it's Duvel. But anyway, Ommegang Brewery, outstanding brewery. Any kind of Belgian style beer that you get from Ommegang, you're gonna love, because they do these Belgian beers right. They did a whole series of beers for the Game of Thrones If you ever saw any of those Game of Thrones beers, that's Ommegang Brewery. We got one of the 4 packs of the big bottles and had some really outstanding beers there. But the individual bottles, while the series was going on, there were some outstanding beers in those. So make sure you check out the Three Philosophers is fantastic. But if you see any kind of Ommegang beer, I would probably recommend it. Just because they do such a fine job at making beers and making beers that are true to style. So they made a nice Belgian quad. They put their spin on it with the Lieferman's Crike. You got to do something to kind of differentiate. And I think that the way they did this one, they really did an outstanding job. So if you've enjoyed this issue of Beer Issues, make sure you tell your friends about Beer Issues and how much fun we're having talking about great beer and drinking great beer. If you want any cool Beer Issues merchandise like hats, t-shirts, phone cases, you name it, go to shop.beerissues.com. And as my wife likes to say, I have beer issues.